Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from the 40 principles of the religion, the 40 fundamentals of the religion. Al-Arba'in fi Usul Din by Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah. Wa nafa'ana bi'ulum fi ad-darain. Ameen, ameen, ameen. So from where we have left, it was a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, what Imam Al-Ghazali said, only part of the hadith, and إنما هي أعمالكم ترد عليكم. The way Imam Muslim narrated this hadith, and I will translate. يا عبادي, so this is hadith قدسي. إنما هي أعمالكم أحصيها لكم ثم أوفيكم إياها فمن وجد خيرا فليحمد الله وجد غير ذلك فلا يلومن إلا نفسه. All my servants, my slaves, verily these are your deeds, your actions. I count them for you. I gather them, I count them, I record them. Then I will reward you accordingly. Whoever finds good should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whoever finds something other than that, meaning, performing in this life, doing, acting in a way that is really the opposite to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. All kinds of sins, including grave sins. So whoever finds something other than that, so not good, فَلَا يَلُومَنَّ نَفْسَهُ, you have no one to blame except yourself. So that's the whole hadith narrated by Imam Muslim rahimahullah. Likewise, Imam Al-Ghazali continues by citing several verses all about the same idea. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يَوْمَ تَجِدُ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مُحْضَرًا وَمَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ سُوءٍ تَوَدُّ لَوْ أَنَّ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَهُ أَمَدًا بَعِيدًا وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ وَاللَّهُ رَءُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. A day when every soul will find whatever it did of good present, and whatever it did of bad, he will wish that between them were a great distance. Allah warns you about Himself, and Allah is merciful to the slaves. The warning so that you could correct your path, your performance, your action, your thoughts, align your thoughts and your heart and your action all together. A day, yes. That day is basically the day of judgment, the day of reckoning, the day of accountability. Moreover, the secret of of the following verse from the Quran, of his, meaning referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كَلَّا لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عِلْمَ الْيَقِينِ لَتَرَوُنَّ الْجَحِيمِ. No, if you only knew with certain knowledge, you will surely see hell. So it's basically about different levels of certitude. علم يقين, حق يقين, عين يقين, where you believe all these, once it's revelation, I just believe. Then either it is something that is not open to interpretation, or it is something that is open for interpretation. If it's not open for interpretation, that's it. I believe in it, and that's it. Makes it, easier for myself. Certitude, indubitable knowledge. Meaning, Imam Al-Ghazali comments, the hell within him therefore seek to have certain knowledge of it and see it before you perceive it with the eye of certainty. Ayn al-yaqeen. But in general, the immediate meaning would be that which appears. Jahim is Jahannam, because you have here, and in these these verses, so يستعجلونك بالعذاب وإن جهنم لمحيطة بالكافرين إنا أعتدنا للظالمين نارا أحاط بهم سرادقها. So we have here Jahim, we have Jahannam, and we have Nar. I think they are all about the same reality in the hereafter. Though one could suffer from fire during this life, but this is also a Muslim could also perish in fire, and it's not necessarily a punishment for sin. In the hereafter, it has to be about disbelief, it has to be about sin, it has to be about being in opposition to divine commandment, changing the religion, creating one. So يستعجلونك بالعذاب وإن جهنم لمحيطة بالكافرين. They urge you to hasten the punishment during this life, and indeed hell surrounds the disbelievers. He did not say it will surround them, but that it surrounds them already. That's a comment from Imam Al-Ghazali. There's also his statement, indeed we have prepared for them, or for the wrongdoers, a fire whose canopy has surrounded them. Engulf them. He did not say surrounds them. Again, this is the meaning of this statement. Of someone who says that paradise and hell are both created, has made his tongue speak with the truth, although perhaps he has yet to fully understand the secret of what he says. If you likewise have not understood some of the meanings of the Quran, then you have no portion of the Quran except its husk, outer shell, the covering, if you will, where there is a deeper level, just as the dumb animal has no portion of wheat except its husk, which is straw. The Quran is sustenance for all creation despite its different types. Their nourishment by it is commensurate to the degree of each. In every food crop there is pulp, bran, and straw. The donkey's desire for straw is stronger than it is for bread made of seeds. You yourself have a strong desire not to part from the level of a dumb animal, or rising to the level of human beings, better yet, the angelic level. Before you can achieve that, you must let your mind wander in the pastures of the Quran, for within them is provision for you and your livestock. Metaphorically speaking, of course. The reality of the viper that takes the shape in the grave, you may say, does this viper take a form which may be witnessed in a manner that resembles visual perception, or is it pure agony in a person's essence? Like when the passionate lover is prevented from his dear beloved. I say, no. Rather, it takes a form to the extent that a person witnesses it. However, it is a spiritual form. Thus, someone who is still in the visible world could not perceive it if he were to look in his grave, for indeed it is of the spiritual realm. Of course, the passionate lover may also sleep, and his condition takes on form to him in his sleep. Then perhaps he sees a snake biting at the depths of his heart. This is because in sleep he is slightly removed from the visible world. So the reality of things takes on form to him in a manner that signifies the reality and unveils the spiritual realm to him. Death is sharper than sleep in regards to unveiling because it suppresses the leanings of sensory perception and imagination more powerfully. Spirit of this world's cover. For this reason, the form taken is complete, realized, and permanent. It is a sleep from which a person does not awaken until the day of resurrection. And it is said to him, لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد. You had been heedless concerning this. So we removed the covering from you. Thus your vision today is keen. You see what you were not permitted to see when you were alive. Imam Al-Ghazali says, know that if the wakeful person next to the sleeper does not see the snake that is biting the sleeper, this does not preclude the existence of the snake in reference to him or the occurrence of pain to him. The dead person's state in the grave is like this. What the author mentions about the torment of the grave. Perhaps you say, you have innovated a statement that is contrary to the well-known opinion and rejected by the overwhelming majority of scholars. For you have claimed that the kinds of otherworldly punishment are perceived by the light of insight and witnessing in a manner that exceeds the bounds of blind following revealed knowledge. It is possible, if this is the case, for you to enumerate the types of punishment and their details. Know that you do not deny my difference with the overwhelming majority of scholars. How can the sojourner's disagreement with the overwhelming majority of people be denied? When the overwhelming majority are settled in what is their country of birth and first stopping place, and the number of them who have traveled amounts to single figures. Know that a country is the body's stopping place and site of its physical manifestation. On the other hand, the human spirit's stopping places are the dimensions of perception. Sensory objects are the first stop. Mental images are the second stop. And abstractions are the third stop. As long as the human being is at the first stop, he is a caterpillar and a moth. The moth of the fire has nothing but sensory perception. If he had mental imagery and the capacity to memorize the image after sensing it, he would not flutter around the fire time after time, time after time, despite being burnt by it once. Indeed, if the bird and all other animals, if the bird is hurt in a place by being struck, it runs from it and never returns, because it has reached the second stop, the mental stop, which is memorizing mental images after they are removed from sensory perception. For a moment, when Imam Ghazali mentioned the caterpillar, I thought that he was going to say that the caterpillar knows nothing but eating. That's one level, of course, of existence. The level of the biological level, if you will. As long as a human being is at the second stop, he is a deficient beast, whose only distinction is to be aware of a thing by which it was hurt once. If a thing does not hurt it, it does not know that it should be treated with caution. And one should learn even without being hurt once, because parents, for example, tend to children and they tell them, do not touch this, do not drink this, do not do this because it's dangerous to your life. Do not, do not, do not. And the problem is that some kids insist on trying on their own, and it's sometimes the consequences are you know it could be death. As long as he is at the third stop, which is abstraction, he is a complete animal, like a horse, for example. It is cautious about the lion if it sees it for the first time. I think there is instinct there. I mean, they know by instinct. Even if it has never been hurt by it, its caution is not dependent on being hurt by it once. Rather, the sheep sees the wolf once and takes precaution concerning it. Yet it sees the camel and the cow, who are both larger in form and appear more frightening, but does not take precaution from them. For harming the sheep is not in their nature. Again, it's the natural disposition. This is like a fitra. Up to this point, these stopping places are shared by animals. Hereafter, the human being rises to the world of humanity and thus perceives things that are not included in sensory perception, imagination, or abstraction. He is cautious of future affairs, and his caution is not limited to the immediate, like the sheep's caution concerning what he sees in the wolf's state. From here, a person moves on to the reality of humanity. Its reality is the spirit that is ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, and I have blown into him from my spirit. In that world, the gate of the spiritual realm opens to him, so he witnesses souls stripped of the clothing of confusion and the covering of forms. That world has no end. As for the worlds of sensory objects, the simile of traversing this world is walking on water, and then rising from it to walking on air. For this reason, when it was said to Allah's Messenger وسلم, truly Isa السلام, walked on water, he said, yes, if you were to increase in certainty, you would walk on air. This hadith was rendered by scholars as munkar, uh, totally unacceptable, deniable based on the Islamic sources and Islamic worldview. It's not a hadith at all. This is not to deny. This is not to deny miracles that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala enabled the prophets to perform. And we know very well that Jesus Christ, peace upon him, Masih alayhi salam, he performed many miracles. He quickened the dead, he healed the blind, he healed the leper. So he performed many miracles. But here it's about the hadith. He might have walked, but the idea is, as a hadith, it cannot be attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. Does not have the chain of narrators that would render it even weak. It's not. As for his stating about sensory objects, it is like walking on the ground. Between it and water is a world that takes its course like a boat. Therein, various levels of devils are produced, so that the human being passes the world of animals and reaches the world of the devils. From there, he travels to the world of the angels, where he could stop and settle. The explanation of this would be lengthy. All of these worlds are stopping points of guidance. However, the guidance that is ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is found in the fourth world, which is the world of spirits. This is the meaning of his statement, subhanahu wa ta'ala, قُلْ إِنَّ الْهُدَى هُدَى اللَّهِ. Say, verily, guidance is Allah's guidance. The place, spot, and stop for every human being in terms of its highness or lowness and according to the measure of his perception. This is the meaning of Ali's statement, radiallahu anh, people are the children of what they do well. People are the children of what they do well. Pretty close to the idea of excellence is repetition, but in the hadith of Prophet ﷺ about that mentioned, hadith Jibreel alayhi salam, Iman, Islam, Iman, Ihsan, and of course there was a question about the soul, the day of judgment. The hadith of Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, Ihsan, from Husn, doing something to a degree of excellence. When you perform something, try to reach the highest level in that field. Whether you are worshipping, whether you are doing something for the benefit of the society at large, something spiritual, though always aim at excellence. إن الله كتب الإحسان على كل شيء. And then the Prophet ﷺ mentioned practical things. So again, these words thus the human being is between being a worm, donkey, horse, or devil. Then he passes that and becomes an angel. The angels have levels. Among them are the earthly and the heavenly, those brought near, who rise above, turning to the sky or the earth, and those whose attention is limited to the beauty of the divine presence, and specifically to observing the countenance. They are forever in the eternal abode, for the object of their attention is the eternal countenance. For everything beside this, Oblivion is its final destination. By this, I mean the sky, the earth, and whatever relates to them of sensory objects, mental images, and abstractions. This is the meaning of his statement, subhanahu wa ta'ala, كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. Everything upon it perishes, yet your Lord's countenance, possessor of majesty and nobility, remains. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. كل من عليها فان. In fact, everything upon earth. But we know not only that which is upon earth, that which is inside the earth, not very deep. Everything. But earth in itself is also has an appointed time, if one really looks deeper. The sun itself, and if the sun really has an appointed term, once it is done, the whole solar system, and it might be as well that this is really the end of things, of course. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها. So the sun has an orbit, not that it really, the orbit of the sun, our solar system, moves around our galaxy. It's an amazing thing. We are about 26,000 light years from the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way, which is called Darb al-Taban in Arabic. It's fascinating that we have a black hole in the middle, spinning, where it really alters space and time. In a sense, one might say, in a sense, there would be no space and time. I mean, in a sense, altering space and time. It sucks. This is why some contemporary Muslim scholars would say that al-Jawahir al-Kunnas in the Quran, these stars, they function kunnas, really, they are sweepers. They sweep the other stars and other heavenly bodies. These walls are the stopping places in a human being's journey so that he may rise from the low levels of animals to the heights of the angels level, and then rise from their level to the level of the passionate lover among them, those who are constantly observing the beauty of divine countenance, glorifying it and proclaiming its perfection night and day without tiring. Now look at the human's vileness and honor, the remoteness of his ascent up higher paths, and the sinking of his level to what is beneath him. Every human being is reduced to the lowest of low, and those who believe and do righteous deeds rise from it. They have a reward that never ends, which is observing the beauty of the divine countenance. I will read the following verse that Imam Al-Ghazali uses in this context, but then again we will start with it tomorrow, inshallah. Through this, the meaning of his statement, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is understood. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها واشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Verily, we offer the trust to the heavens, the earth, and the mountains, but they refused to carry it and were afraid of it. humanity carried it, a human being, and as a genus, not as a person. Indeed, humanity has always been prone to wrongdoing and woefully ignorant. I would rather use insan in the singular. The reason why is that once it is in the singular, one would feel that it really addresses him, addresses her. If you use humanity, then it's it's humanity. It's not me. Psychologically, one might say. Until tomorrow, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.